The year is 1987. Hawkins is no longer the small, quiet town you remember. The sky bleeds red. Shadows crawl where light used to live. And a familiar evil, long thought gone, is growing stronger, in silence. Mantelpiece clock asterisk, the rift is open. The upside down is bleeding into our world. And Vecna. He's not dead, he's just getting started. Asterisk. Police car light. This is not just another story, this is the final battle. The party must reunite. The stakes have never been higher. And the terror? It's beyond anything they've faced before. Collision, get ready to dive into the darkest, most terrifying story of Stranger Things yet. Television, welcome to Stranger Things 5, The Fall of Hawkins. Drop of Blood. Subscribe now, hit that like button, and turn on notifications. Because once this begins, there's no turning back. October 14, 1987, Hawkins, Indiana. The air hung thick with rot and silence. It had been nearly 6 months since the rifts opened, splitting the skies and tearing Hawkins to its foundations. What remained of the town now lay blanketed in a sickly orange hue, perpetual twilight, courtesy of the ever-bleeding wounds between worlds. Crooked trees leaned into cracked streets, their roots exposed like veins. Dust fell like snow from the swirling sky, and in the distance, you could hear it, the groaning, the howling, the whispering of the other side. People didn't walk the streets anymore. Those who stayed behind cowered in their basements, praying the things that crawled out at night wouldn't find them. The military had fenced the town in, wrapped it in steel and secrets. Checkpoints. Floodlights. Black vans. They claimed they were here to contain the threat. But no one believed them. Hawkins had become a cage, and the monsters weren't just on the outside. Deep underground, in a collapsed section of Forest Hills, a rusted hatch creaked open. Max Mayfield winced as she pushed herself out of the narrow tunnel, her face streaked with grime and blood. Her eyes scanned the forest floor before waving her flashlight toward the trees in a coded rhythm. 3 short flashes. 2 long. From the shadows, Lucas emerged, his silhouette tense, a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire strapped across his back. His eyes, harder now, darker, met hers. No movement, she asked, brushing dust from her broken Walkman. Not yet, Lucas said. But something's wrong. Animals are gone. Trees are quieter. Like everything's hiding. Max nodded. It's getting closer. They moved quickly through the woods, careful not to step on the branches littering the ground. Each crack was a risk. The sound echoed far in Hawkins now. Their base was hidden in the remains of Hawkins Middle School, which had been mostly reduced to rubble during the initial rift collapse. Only the gymnasium survived, its roof half caved in, its walls scorched black by flames and something worse. Inside, Eddie Munson sat at a makeshift table made of desks, fiddling with an old radio. His fingers were blistered, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights, but the moment he saw Max and Lucas, he stood up. Please tell me you found it, Eddie said. Max pulled a folded map from her pocket and placed it on the table. 3rd rift. It's active. East of Creel House. Eddie sucked in a breath. That's 3. All of them surrounding Vecna's last known location. He's forming a circle, Lucas muttered. Like a ritual or a trap. Or both, Max added grimly. He's preparing something. And we're almost out of time. A door creaked. From the back, Nancy entered, clutching her camera like a weapon. Her clothes were singed at the edges, and she carried a thick notebook filled with interviews, sightings, and horrific sketches of the things now living in Hawkins. Hulking beasts with mouths in their torsos. Serpents made of smoke, and the ever-present shadows that moved like they were alive. I just came from the edge of town, she said. Military's brought in something new. I didn't get a clear look, but it's not human. Everyone fell silent. It was Dustin who broke the tension. He burst in moments later, panting and red-faced, cradling something in his arms. A small, trembling creature, part rodent, part lizard, with eyes too human for comfort. "What the hell is that?" Eddie asked, recoiling. Dustin placed it on the table. "It's a baby demo dog. But listen, before you freak out, it's not attacking. It's scared." Lucas frowned. "They don't get scared." "They do now," Dustin said. "Something's hunting them." Across town, beneath the ruins of the old library. The temperature dropped sharply, frost crawling up broken shelves and shattered windows. Rats lay still, frozen in mid-scurry. From the darkness came a sound, like bones breaking in reverse. A foot stepped into the room, skin slick and pulsing like something born from rot. Vecna. He moved with eerie grace, his body part man, part nightmare, veins glowing faintly with red light that pulsed to the rhythm of the rifts. His face was gaunt, stretched tighter than before, and his eyes, milky and dead, pierced the shadows. He walked to the center of the floor, where a circle had been carved in flesh and blood. Around it floated fragments of time, broken clocks, snapped watches, second hands spinning backward. Each tick echoed with screams from another life. His voice, when he spoke, was barely more than a hiss. "They gather. But they do not understand." His hand lifted, and the walls bled. From the ground rose creatures, twisted corpses of former soldiers, their bodies mutilated into new forms, jaws dislocated to unhinge like snakes, spines fused with metal, eyes replaced with blinking red lights. "Soon," Vecna whispered, "the barrier will fall, and I will become everything." Back at the school. Night fell fast in Hawkins now. And when it did, the darkness came alive. Steve Harrington stood on the roof, binoculars to his face, scanning the horizon. The stars were gone, swallowed by the red clouds that pulsed over the town like a beating heart. He counted shadows moving at the fence line. Too many to be people. From the stairwell came 11. Her shaved head had started to grow back, uneven patches of hair covering the scars that marred her scalp. Her nose bled almost constantly now, and every time she used her powers, something inside her seemed to splinter. "You're pushing too hard," Steve said without turning. "I have to," she answered. "He'll know. He already does." She walked past him and stepped to the ledge, closing her eyes. In her mind, the world fell away. Sound became vibration. Light became pressure. She reached out, searching through the static of the upside down. She saw him. Vecna, standing over a pit of bodies. Their mouths moved in silent screams. He looked at her, even within the void, and smiled. 11 gasped and fell back, blood pouring from her ears. Steve caught her, shouting for help. Dustin and Lucas ran to her, and Max knelt at her side, gripping her hand. 11's voice trembled. "He's coming. Not alone. There's something, behind him. Bigger. Older. Worse." Nancy backed away. "Worse than Vecna. He's a gate," 11 whispered. "Not the end. Just the beginning." That night, the dreams returned. Will Byers hadn't slept properly since the fall. Not since he'd started hearing the voices again, cold, guttural whispers from beneath the earth, calling his name. He stood in the hallway of his childhood home, the lights flickering above. Paint peeled. Wallpaper bled. At the far end, a shadow loomed, tall, hunched, with arms that scraped the floor. Will turned to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The shadow reached him in seconds. Its hand entered his chest, fingers sinking through skin and bone, touching something beneath his soul. "You are mine," it whispered, in Vecna's voice, and something else behind it. Something ancient. Will woke up screaming, soaked in sweat, a black handprint burned into his chest. Joyce and Jonathan burst into the room, eyes wide. Will clutched his sheets, gasping, he's inside. Again. Dawn never came. The sun didn't rise the next day. The sky remained choked with crimson clouds, and the wind carried the sound of distant screams. In the heart of Hawkins, near the old clock tower, a new rift opened, violent, massive, and hungry. The military arrived too late. The ground split open, swallowing trucks and soldiers alike. From the rift poured monstrosities, spindly creatures with too many limbs, heads split open like blooming flowers, and eyes that spun in circles like clocks. From the middle of it all, Vecna stood. Watching. Waiting. As the creatures tore through the streets, his voice echoed through the air, not aloud, but in every mind at once. Hawkins will fall. And with it, your world. October 15, 1987, 3:33 a.m. Somewhere in the woods, outside Hawkins. Rain fell in heavy sheets, mixing with the fog that seemed to cling to every tree like a living thing. The woods surrounding Hawkins had become twisted, unrecognizable, branches bent in unnatural angles, roots crawling like fingers across the ground. Crows, silent and still, watched from above with dead eyes. Mike Wheeler wiped the rain from his glasses and peered through the scope of his flashlight. "Are you sure this is the right way?" he asked, breath fogging in the cold. Beside him, Robin Buckley adjusted the strap on her pack and motioned ahead. "This is where the signal led. It's weak, but it's there, something's emitting psychic static." Behind them, Will trudged through the underbrush, pale and shaking, clutching the front of his jacket where the black mark still burned against his chest. "It's him," he muttered. "Vecna, he's nearby. Watching." They all froze. From deeper in the woods came a low clicking sound. Not an animal. Not human. It echoed like bones snapping underwater. Robin raised her flashlight. "Everyone, shut up." The group crouched behind a fallen log, listening. Then, a shape moved, fast, like a blur of black mist. It darted between trees with impossible speed. The clicking grew louder, angrier. Something was hunting them. "We need to move," Mike whispered, gripping a crowbar with white knuckles. Will's breathing turned ragged. "It's one of them," his eyes, inside the trees. Robin glanced down at the radar device in her hand, its green light blinking erratically. "It's not just watching us. It's tracking us." Suddenly, the air shattered with an ear-splitting screech. The creature dropped from the trees, 8 feet tall, skeletal, its body wrapped in wet black tendons. Its mouth was vertical, splitting up its skull like a flower made of teeth, and in the center of its head sat a single, white, human-like eye that spun like a clock's second hand. Mike screamed and swung his crowbar. It connected, but it didn't stop the thing. Robin fired a flare gun straight into its chest. The creature stumbled back, screeching, its flesh igniting, but only briefly. The fire fizzled out. It healed as fast as it burned. "Run," she shouted. They scattered. Will tripped on a root. The creature loomed over him, drooling viscous black fluid. Its eye widened. Will curled up, bracing for impact. A sudden burst of force ripped the monster away. From the tree line, 11 stood, eyes glowing white, her hand extended. Blood streamed from her nose, and her knees buckled as the monster slammed into a tree, bones cracking. But it wasn't dead. The monster writhed, its body contorting back into place, limbs twitching, reborn. Will scrambled to his feet and ran. 11 turned to follow, then collapsed. She screamed, clutching her skull. A voice echoed in her mind. "You cannot stop what's coming. I am time. I am the end." Meanwhile, Hawkins Middle School underground. Max paced like a caged animal, her eyes flicking toward the boarded-up windows. "We lost contact," she muttered. "It's been over an hour." Something went wrong. They'll be back, Lucas said, loading a shotgun with trembling fingers. Mike's careful. No one's careful anymore, Max snapped. Not here. Not after what we've seen. Across the room, Eddie tuned the radio again. Static. Static. Then, faint voices. Screaming. Got something, he yelled. The sound was garbled, but unmistakable. Mike, attacked, trees, huge. Will's hurt. Nancy grabbed her rifle. I'm going. I'm going too, Max insisted. Lucas didn't argue. They all knew the stakes now. Vecna wasn't hiding anymore. He was testing them, sending his newest creations to stalk them like prey in a maze. Dustin stopped them before they could leave. I figured something out, he said, spreading blueprints and maps across the table. The rifts, they're not random. They're aligned. He pointed to dots drawn in red across the map. 3 active ones, remember? Creel House, the library, and the lake. They form a triangle. But I overlaid that on an old town blueprint from 1950, before Hawkins was even called Hawkins. The shape was there. A symbol. Max leaned in. A ritual circle. Dustin nodded. Exactly. Vecna's using Hawkins to create a clockwork array. The rifts are like gears. If he finishes it, he'll turn the town into a permanent gate, Nancy finished. A doorway to the void. Lucas blinked. The what now? Dustin swallowed. The space between universes. A dimension of pure chaos. It's where the Mind Flayer came from. It's older than time. If Vecna succeeds, he won't just bring the upside down here, he'll merge the worlds. No barriers. No rules. No escape. Eddie grabbed his axe. Then let's end this. Creel House, 5:45 a.m. The old mansion stood like a corpse at the center of the storm. Lightning forked the sky, revealing its twisted frame. Crumbling wood, shattered windows, vines pulsating with red light clinging to its sides like veins. Inside, Vecna moved through the ruined halls with quiet purpose. He approached the grandfather clock, its hands frozen at 3:33, its chimes echoing in reverse. In his palm, he held a shard of mirror, recovered from the rift beneath Starcourt Mall. In its reflection, the faces of Hawkins' children screamed. He placed it into the clock's core. The house groaned. Above him, in the attic, the air shifted. A portal opened, not to the upside down, but somewhere deeper. Somewhere worse. A shape peered through, a writhing mass of shadows with too many eyes. Something ancient. Vecna kneeled. I offer blood. I offer time. Grant me dominion. The thing answered, not with words, but with a psychic blast that shattered every window in Hawkins. Wheeler residence, basement shelter. Joyce clutched Will's face. His skin had gone pale. Black veins spiderwebbed across his chest. It's him, Will gasped. He's inside me again. But, different. Cold. Older. Jonathan paced, panicked. We need Elle. She's unconscious, Joyce whispered. She used too much power saving them. Will grabbed his mother's hand. I saw it, he said. The thing behind Vecna. It's not alive, not really. It's the void. It speaks through Vecna, but it wants me. Joyce fought back tears. We're not losing you again. Will looked up at her with hollow eyes. You already have. The final vision, somewhere between worlds. 11 floated in darkness. A sea of broken memories surrounded her, flashes of blood, screams, fire. She turned and saw herself as a child in the lab, her mother screaming, Brenner's cold face. And then. Vecna. He approached her, stepping through flame. You never left me, he whispered. You are my beginning. And you will be my end. Elle tried to lift her hand, tried to fight, but her powers sputtered, like static before silence. Vecna reached into her mind and ripped it open. And behind him, the void appeared. A vortex of nothing. It hungered. You opened the first gate, 11. But I will open the last. Back in Hawkins, 6:06 a.m. The sky screamed. 3 rifts pulsed simultaneously, their light spreading across the town like infection. The ground cracked. Trees bent toward the sky like they were praying. And from the rifts, things began to crawl, horrors shaped like regrets, failures, sins. The final battle hadn't begun. It had already started. And the party was out of time. October 16, 1987, 2:22 a.m. Beneath Hawkins, the subterranean rift system. The air was wet and sour, laced with decay and something worse, something that made your skin crawl and your teeth ache. Dustin adjusted his flashlight, its flickering beam revealing a long, narrow tunnel lined with pulsing walls of flesh and stone. The rift had opened wide beneath the surface of Hawkins, and the path they followed now went deeper than anything they had ever seen. How far down are we? Robin asked, her voice echoing in the dark. Too far, Dustin muttered, checking his modified compass. The needle's spinning like crazy. Magnetic interference is off the charts. Beside them, Nancy gripped her rifle tightly. She scanned every crevice, every shadow. Doesn't feel like the Upside Down, she said. Feels older. Lucas nodded grimly. We shouldn't be here. Exactly why we have to be, Max said, her eyes locked forward. Vecna's down here somewhere. And if we let him finish whatever the hell this is, there won't be a Hawkins left. They moved deeper, passing through tunnels of bone and mucus. The walls trembled like they were breathing. A dull heartbeat echoed through the ground. And the deeper they went, the louder it became. Boom, boom, boom. At a fork in the path, Dustin stopped. The left tunnel was dark and narrow, the right one glowed faintly red. Split up, he offered, hesitantly. No, Nancy said sharply. Not again. But the ground answered for them. The moment they stepped forward, the tunnel lurched, walls shifting, ceiling cracking. The floor beneath them split, sending Max and Lucas tumbling down the left tunnel, screaming as the earth swallowed them. Max! Dustin cried. Lucas! But they were gone. Elsewhere in the hollow, Max and Lucas. Max groaned, pushing herself up from a bed of what looked like damp moss, only to realize it was a nest of teeth. Small, baby-like teeth embedded in the floor, clicking softly. Lucas, she whispered. I'm here, he said, limping toward her. A gash ran across his leg, and blood soaked through his jeans. Nothing's broken. Just, bruised and terrified. Max helped him up, and they turned to look at their surroundings. They were inside a chamber, organic, wet, and vast. Dozens of tunnels branched off in every direction. Strange fungal growths pulsed with light, illuminating disturbing murals scratched into the walls. Max moved closer. The images depicted a creature, not Vecna, but something much worse. A swirling void, crowned with tendrils, feeding on screaming planets. And surrounding the creature were watchers, human-like beings with blank faces and hollow eyes, standing in worship. It's him, Max murmured. The thing Vecna serves. The thing behind the void. Lucas leaned on her shoulder. It wants worship, he said. Like a god. Suddenly, something dropped from the ceiling. A watcher. Its eyes blinked open, deep black voids, and it smiled without a mouth. Max raised her weapon, but it vanished. Not ran, vanished. Like a skipped frame in a broken film reel. "Run," she whispered. And the walls began to scream. Back at the rift entrance, Dustin, Nancy, and Robin. "We have to go after them," Dustin shouted. "We don't even know where they landed," Nancy snapped, reloading her rifle. "We can't help them if we get lost too." Robin pointed to the red-lit tunnel. "Vecna's down that way. We take him out, maybe this whole place collapses." They nodded grimly and pushed forward, the tunnel narrowing, air growing colder. But something followed. Robin stopped. "Do you hear that?" The sound of footsteps, and then whispers. Familiar voices. "Robin, it's Steve, don't leave me down here." She froze. "That's not real. That's not real." Dustin grabbed her arm. "Don't listen. It's the hollow. It feeds on memories." But the tunnel ahead had changed. The walls had become mirrors. Shards of glass embedded in living flesh, each one reflecting not their faces, but their worst fears. Nancy's mirror showed Barb, drowned and pale, whispering, "Why didn't you save me?" Robin's showed Steve's broken body, split in two by a demogorgon, his hand reaching for her. Dustin's showed Eddie, his eyes hollow, skin decaying. "You let me die." They stumbled forward, shaking, tears falling, minds unraveling. And then came Vecna's voice. "The hollow is your truth. Every lie you told. Every friend you failed. It's all here." Robin screamed and fired her gun at the mirrors. Glass shattered, flesh peeled back, and the illusions faded, but the pain remained. They emerged from the tunnel broken, but alive. Ahead, in the center of a red chamber, stood the clock. And beneath it, Vecna. Waiting. Meanwhile, above ground, Creel House. 11 sat in a trance, surrounded by candles. Her nose bled steadily, and her body trembled with exertion. Mike sat beside her, holding her hand. "She's been down there too long," he whispered. Joyce paced nearby. "We have to wake her. She's killing herself." But Will, silent in the corner, spoke. "She's the only one who can reach him." "Who?" Mike asked. Will's voice shook. "Vecna, and the other one." His chest flared with pain again. The black veins grew thicker. "He's waking up inside me. The void is coming. And it knows I'm the door." Suddenly, 11's eyes flew open. "I saw it," she gasped. "The hollow earth. It's not just a place. It's a brain. This whole tunnel system, it's alive." She turned to Will. "It's feeding on you." Back in the hollow, Max and Lucas. Running. Breathless. Bloody. They burst into a corridor of bone, the walls narrowing behind them, the watchers closing in, crawling on ceilings, whispering, chanting. Max found a metal hatch, half buried in the floor. Together, they yanked it open and fell through into darkness. They landed in a small chamber glowing green. In the center sat a core. A pulsing, oozing heart connected to black tendrils. Spreading across the tunnels. Lucas stepped back, horrified. "This is it. The brain. The hollow." Max stared. "What happens if we destroy it?" "I don't think we survive." She gripped his hand. "Then we go together. Final confrontation begins, Vecna's chamber." Nancy raised her rifle. "It ends tonight." Vecna grinned, one arm fused with dark bone, the other extended toward the clock. "You're too late," he whispered. "The rifts are aligned. The void will open. I will ascend." Robin launched the first Molotov. It burst against the walls, fire spreading. Dustin flanked right, planting explosives. Vecna moved fast, too fast. He raised Nancy into the air with one thought, crushing her ribs. 11's voice echoed through the rift. Let her go. And she stepped in. Her mind connected to his, psychic against psychic. Pain for pain. Power for power. Their bodies lifted into the air as energy crackled, red and white lightning streaking across the chamber. The earth screamed. At the core. Max and Lucas. Max slammed the axe into the core. It howled. Lucas lit a flare and jammed it into the fissure. The tendrils writhed, and the hollow earth began to collapse. All tunnels. All chambers. The mind was dying. In Vecna's chamber. The explosion reached the chamber. 11's power surged. Vecna screamed, not in defeat, but in rebirth. His body twisted, pulled into the sky, absorbed by the rift. He smiled. You cannot kill a god. You only free him. The rift exploded in blinding light. Silence. Then darkness. When the dust cleared, the chamber was gone. So was Vecna. So was Max. So was Lucas. Dustin sobbed on his knees. Nancy lay broken but breathing. Robin pulled her close. 11 stood in the wreckage, her hands trembling. Will's voice came through the radio. It's not over. October 17, 1987, 4:44 a.m. Above ground, the crater where Creel House once stood. Ash rained from a ruptured sky. The ruins of the hollow earth had collapsed into a sinkhole so massive it devoured blocks of Hawkins, turning homes into rubble and trees into ash statues. Where once stood the cursed Creel House was now an open scar, a deep wound still smoldering, bleeding out darkness. Dustin stood at the edge of the crater, arms limp at his sides, eyes hollow. His radio dangled uselessly from his hand, static whispering broken fragments of last night's chaos. Max was gone. Lucas too. Blown apart with the core, their last stand nothing more than a fading echo in the air. We did everything right, Dustin whispered. We followed the signs. We fought. And we still lost them. Behind him, 11 walked slowly forward, pale and gaunt. Her hair was damp with blood and sweat, her legs trembling with every step. He's still here, she murmured. Nancy looked up, bruised and bandaged. Vecna. 11 shook her head. No. Something worse. The others stared at her in silence. Then the ground beneath them shifted. The fallout, temporary shelter, Hawkins High Gymnasium. It had become a shelter by necessity. Folded cots. Medical supplies. Military guards that no longer looked like they had any command. Most of them were dead-eyed, silent, haunted by what they'd seen. Joyce watched over Will, who lay unconscious, his skin damp with fever, the black veins now snaking up his neck and jawline. Jonathan paced near the door. He's burning up. His heart rate spiking. He's not speaking. Joyce whispered, he's not supposed to. Something else is. The lights above them began to flicker. Will's mouth opened slowly. His eyes still shut. In a voice not his own, he spoke. You have shattered the hollow. And now the deep one wakes. Suddenly, every window shattered inward, glass exploding across the room. The air was filled with whispers. Layered voices, speaking from inside the walls. A soldier ran inside, shouting, something's coming out of the crater. The crater, minutes earlier. From the smoldering wound in the earth, a pulse of red light throbbed outward, vibrating the air like a siren no one could silence. Steve stepped forward with Robin and Dustin. 11 stood a few feet ahead, her hand outstretched. The void, she whispered. It's leaking. The smoke thickened. Out of the pit came a sound, not a growl, not a scream, but a chant. Ancient, layered, male and female, young and old. Suddenly, a shape rose. It was not Vecna. It was something born of him. The creature was nearly 20 feet tall, forged from black matter, its body shifting constantly, one moment humanoid, the next serpentine, the next nothing but tendrils and bone. Its face had no features, only a spinning clock embedded in its chest. As it emerged, the ground cracked outward. Robin whispered, "What the hell is that?" 11 answered without looking. The voice of the void. A herald. The creature lifted its arms, and from the sky fell stars. Except they weren't stars. They were bodies. Humans. But wrong. Twisted. Broken. Skin fused with metal, their mouths sewn shut, eyes glowing with otherworldly light. These were the reclaimed, citizens of Hawkins taken over the past few weeks, now returned as hosts. The ground around the crater erupted. War had begun. The battle begins. Nancy fired the first shot, her rifle cutting through the chest of a reclaimed. It didn't slow down. Steve swung his bat, its barbed wire now rusted and bloodstained, and cracked one creature's skull. It screamed, not in pain, but in relief, like death was a gift. Dustin grabbed a pipe and jabbed it into one of their exposed power cores, makeshift tech embedded into their chests like parasites. The battlefield lit up with chaos. And in the center of it all, 11 moved forward, facing the Void's herald. "You're not Vecna," she shouted. The herald tilted its head. "I am his evolution. I ended him." "You freed him," it replied, voice echoing from every direction at once. "You destroyed the locks. Now I will open the gate, fully. Forever." The ground split. Red lightning erupted from the clouds. A second rift opened in the sky, swirling like a storm of teeth and flame. 11's body lifted as she unleashed a psychic wave. The herald stumbled, then surged forward. They collided mid-air, powers clashing in a storm of force that bent gravity. Time stuttered. For a split second, the world slowed, birds frozen in mid-flight, ash hanging like beads of glass. Then, impact. The herald shrieked. So did 11. She dropped, unconscious. The herald didn't fall. Back in the shelter. Will sat bolt upright in his cot. His eyes opened, pitch black. Jonathan stepped forward, panicking. Will. Will spoke, voice distorted and layered. "The door has opened. I must go now." His body convulsed. His veins split open. Not blood, but black ichor oozing out like ink. Joyce screamed. "Help him." But it was too late. Will collapsed, his body empty. And then he stood up again. Only it wasn't Will anymore. The true revelation. At the edge of the battlefield, Mike found 11's crumpled body. He dropped to his knees. "Elle. Please. Wake up." She stirred faintly. "Mike. Don't talk, just rest." "No, listen." She opened her bloodshot eyes. "I saw it. Before I fell, in the herald's mind. Vecna isn't dead. He's everywhere. The void is not just a place, it's a will. It used him. It used us. And now, it wants to replace the world." Mike's voice cracked. "Replace it with what?" 11 answered with a whisper. "A version without time, without hope, just endless memory. Elsewhere, lost in the hollow." Max woke up choking. She was somewhere else. Not dead. Not alive. The sky above her was red, the ground gray and endless. Floating chunks of memory hovered like debris, her first skateboard, Billy's angry eyes, her mother's voice singing on the radio. Lucas lay beside her, coughing blood. "We're not in Hawkins," he said weakly. "No," Max whispered. "We're in the between." The last thing before the void. And it's feeding on us. In the distance, a towering shape watched. Vecna. But he was different, translucent, dissolving. You broke my body, he said, voice trailing like smoke. But I am many now. And you will be the first of my new angels. He lifted a hand. Behind him, thousands of lost souls screamed. Final scene, the sky cracks. At exactly 5:55 a.m., every clock in Hawkins stopped. The clouds split open. From the heavens, something vast stirred, too massive to see fully, its edges eclipsing reality. Eyes opened across the sky, watching. Dreaming. And in that moment, every citizen of Hawkins heard the same thing. A whisper in their minds. The old world is ending. And far beneath the ruins, in the lowest pit of the earth, something began to climb out. October 17, 1987, 6:06 a.m. Hawkins, dead time. Every clock had stopped. Digital, analog, wristwatches, microwaves, grandfather clocks, every single one frozen at 5:55 a.m. The world had become still. Unmoving. Even the wind had ceased. But it wasn't peace. It was the pause before a scream. Dustin stood in the middle of Main Street, gripping his walkie like a lifeline. The sky above him was a mess of torn clouds and unnatural light. Eyes blinked open among the thunderheads, not metaphorical, but literal, dozens, maybe hundreds, swiveling downward, watching. Watching him. The ground rumbled again. But this time it didn't stop. Pavement cracked. Power lines snapped and danced like snakes. The street behind the high school split apart, revealing the hollow red glow of the underworld beneath. And then came the voice. Not out loud, but inside every skull in Hawkins. It is done. The gate is open. Time is unmade. The reshaping begins. Screams echoed across town. From the wreckage of houses and shelters, survivors emerged, only to drop to their knees, clutching their heads, blood pouring from their noses and ears. Above it all, at the center of the sky, a vast shape coalesced. Not Vecna. Not the Mind Flayer. Something older. A being without form, tentacled, ever-changing, layered in light and shadow and eyes. Its thoughts bent the air. Its arrival erased the rules of the universe. It was the true void. The Endmaker. The unnameable. And it had come to stay. Meanwhile, Hawkins' high shelter. Joyce held Jonathan close, both staring in horror at Will. But it wasn't Will anymore. His body stood like a puppet, empty-eyed, oozing black vapor. His veins glowed like molten lava, and his shadow now stretched unnaturally far. "Mom," the voice croaked. But it was warped, like it passed through a broken machine. Joyce tried to step forward, but the air thickened. The room grew cold. The lights overhead exploded as Will raised a hand. A ripple of energy burst outward, freezing everyone in place. Not with ice, but with time. Except for one. 11. She stepped through the back door of the shelter, face pale, blood trickling from her ears. Her powers sparked like static, blinking in and out. "Let him go," she whispered. Will turned to her. Or what was inside Will? "You gave me this door, 11. I simply walked through." Elle's hands trembled. Her eyes flicked with white light. But she was weak. Broken. Tired. "I'll stop you." "You couldn't stop Henry. And he was nothing compared to me." Suddenly, the entire gymnasium folded inward. Bleachers bent, floors twisted, lockers imploded. And in a blink, they were no longer in Hawkins High. They were in a version of it, burned, blackened, decaying. The Void's playground. In the between, Max and Lucas. They ran through the between, dodging falling memories and shattered fragments of time. Behind them, Vecna walked slowly, as if the realm itself bent to his will. His body was ethereal now, made of light and smoke, but his presence was even more terrifying. Every word he spoke bent the rules of the realm. "Maxine," he said gently, "you broke the circle, but you couldn't stop the wheel." Lucas turned and hurled a makeshift spear. It passed through Vecna like mist. "I'm not here to fight," Vecna said. "I'm here to deliver you." "To what?" Max snarled. "To that thing in the sky." "To freedom," Vecna said, smiling. "A world without pain. Without limits. Without death." Max's eyes narrowed. "Then why are we dying?" He didn't answer. Because even he feared what was coming. Creel Crater, the final line. Steve, Robin, and Dustin stood at the crater's edge, weapons in hand. They had seen everything, the sky's transformation, the creatures crawling out of the ground, the endless wave of reclaimed now pouring into Hawkins like ants from a wound. "We have to blow it," Dustin said. "The explosives under the hollow. They're still wired." Robin looked down. "That'll level the entire town." "I know." Steve clenched his jaw. "Do it." Dustin hesitated, then pulled the trigger. A dull hum echoed underground. Then a flash. And the earth screamed. 11 versus the void. In the shadow-drenched version of Hawkins High, 11 stood across from the possessed Will. Around them, the walls melted, showing images from every season of pain, the Demogorgon, the hospital massacre, Billy's sacrifice, Max in the sky, Hopper in the fire, Brenner's eyes as he died. "Why do you resist?" the void asked through Will. "Because they matter," El said. "We matter. You are a spark. I am the fire. You are a wound. I am the disease." 11 screamed and unleashed everything. Her mind collided with Will's, breaking through walls, swimming through memories, flooding with grief, rage, and love. She found Will, buried deep inside himself, held captive in a cage made of ice. "El," he whispered. "I've got you," she sobbed. She reached out. And the cage shattered. Will returned. The void shrieked, recoiling from Will's body like smoke from sunlight. But it wasn't over. The void now appeared as a massive form outside Hawkins, towering across the horizon. Tentacles wrapped around buildings, claws the size of trucks slammed into earth, and its mouths, yes, mouths, began to sing. The song of unmaking. The song could not be heard with ears. It was felt in bones. In memory. In souls. People dropped to the ground, weeping blood, forgetting who they were. Names unraveled. Families forgot each other. Entire identities were devoured. Only those anchored by true bonds survived. Mike ran to 11. Steve shielded Robin. Joyce held Will. Nancy covered Dustin. They screamed together. Fought back together. Elle stood, eyes burning again with power. "I remember," she whispered. And with that, she struck. The counter-surge. From 11's mind came a wave of pure white energy. Memories. Love. Laughter. Humanity. A pulse that slammed into the void with the force of everything they had ever felt. The monster staggered. Its body cracked. Light bled from it. Vecna screamed in the between. The reclaimed froze. The eyes in the sky closed. Time shuddered. And then. Boom. The explosives detonated beneath the hollow earth. A final flash. A roar that devoured Hawkins. Silence. Then, breath. The air slowly returned to normal. The sky cleared. The crater stopped growing. The void was gone. Later, one day after. The survivors gathered in what was left of the school. Hawkins was gone, mostly. Flattened in places. Twisted in others. But there was still air. Still light. Max and Lucas had not returned. Their bodies never found. But sometimes, when the wind blew just right, Dustin swore he could hear Max's laughter. In his dreams, Lucas waved to him across a red sky. Will rested now, whole again, if changed. 11 slept for days. When she woke, her first word was hope. But elsewhere. In the final page of time. A single eye blinked open in the deep dark. Time had ended once. But there are many clocks. October 18, 1987, the day after the explosion. Location, Hawkins, what remains? Ash blanketed the town like snow. Burnt, black, and lifeless. The trees were twisted charcoal. Houses reduced to skeletons of wood and brick. The school, what was left, stood like a crooked tombstone at the edge of the crater. Hawkins was silent, still, and scarred. But life clung to the edges. Like ants after a storm, survivors crawled from makeshift shelters and crumbled homes. Covered in soot, bleeding, limping, but alive. And haunted. The veil between dimensions had thinned. People began seeing things that shouldn't be. Flickers of light in mirrors. Shadows walking backward. Voices coming from unplugged radios. Static that whispered names of the dead. Steve stood with Robin on the roof of the shattered Starcourt ruins, surveying what remained. A cold wind blew through his tattered jacket. "You think it's over?" Robin asked, voice hoarse. Steve didn't answer right away. "No," he finally said. "It's changed. But it's not over." Location, the crater edge, 11 awakens. 11 woke up on a mattress surrounded by candles. Joyce, Hopper, Will, and Mike sat nearby, their faces tired, eyes hollow. Hopper had aged 20 years overnight. "Elle?" Mike asked, rushing to her side. She blinked. The weight of memory behind her eyes. "I saw it," she whispered. "The center of the dark." Joyce leaned in. "What did you see, sweetie?" Elle turned, slowly, to Will. "Your mind is still open," she said. "A part of it is still here. Still alive." Will's eyes widened. "Vecna?" Elle nodded. "He's not gone. The creature, that thing we fought, it was bigger. But Vecna is still, somewhere." Hopper frowned. "Then what the hell did we blow up?" 11 stared at the sky. "His cage." "Not him." Location, the between, Max and Lucas. Time didn't exist here. Max wandered through the shattered pieces of her own mind, reliving moments. Her mother's laughter, Billy's rage, the skateboard under her feet, the smell of summer sweat and blood. She screamed. No one heard. Lucas was somewhere, always almost visible, always just behind the veil. Then, one day, or moment, he appeared. Max turned, breathless. "Lucas?" His hand reached out. But something grabbed it, a tendril of memory, and pulled him backward. She ran. Screamed his name. The between split open beneath her feet, and she fell through sky, through fire, through blood-red clouds. And landed in her own room. The walls were burned. Billy stood at the foot of her bed. But his eyes were Vecna's. Location, the sublevel tunnels, Dustin, Erica, and Nancy. Beneath the ruins of Hawkins ran old military tunnels, abandoned since the Russians. The trio had descended deep underground to check the seismic readings from the explosion. What they found instead, was a heartbeat. Not a sound. A feeling. Thump. 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 Pulsing through the concrete walls. "This isn't just a leftover vibration, Dustin. whispered. Something's alive down here. Nancy turned her flashlight down a corridor. Her beam landed on a wall. But the wall blinked. Then opened like a mouth. A creature, fused with steel and flesh, lunged from the concrete. Screams echoed. Erica fired a flare. The tunnel lit up with horror. The walls were made of people. Twisted, screaming, alive. Location, Lab Archives, Murray and Owens. Deep inside the remains of the Hawkins lab, Murray Bauman and Dr. Owens pored through half-burned documents and cracked tape reels. "What is Project Kronos?" Murray asked, flipping open a sealed folder marked Eyes Only. Inside were schematics for dimensional resonators, neural splicing experiments, and something called chronospatial harvesting. Owens paled. "This isn't Russian. This is us." "You mean the US tried to control time?" "No," Owens said. "They tried to trap it." The last page in the file was a photo. It showed a test subject. Strapped to a chair. Electrodes in the skull. And the subject was Henry Creel. Before he became Vecna. Location, Mindscape, 11th Journey. Elle sat cross-legged in the ashes, surrounded by the quiet murmur of survivors. She closed her eyes. And entered the mindscape. It was torn apart, glitching, bleeding red and white light. She moved through floating doors and shattered windows. Through memories warped by fire. At the center, a throne of bones. On it sat Vecna. Or what was left of him. Most of his body was gone. Burned, shredded. Only a face. A soul. A spirit of rotting anger and pain. "You still chase ghosts," he rasped. "You don't belong here," she said. "I am here, Elle. Always. I am every crack in the wall. Every moment someone forgets their name. Every grief. You're dying. I am becoming." Then he raised his hand. And behind him, a spiral opened. A void of pure unreality. "The timeline has shattered. You broke the gate. But you also broke time itself. I will return through the cracks." Elle screamed. And was thrown out of the mindscape. Back in Hawkins, the rift reopens. A pulse tore across town. The cracked earth at the crater's center began to split again. Red light beamed skyward. Sirens wailed. The survivors scattered. The rift was reopening. But not in one place. Everywhere. In the sky. In mirrors. In people. A woman on the street collapsed, her reflection dragged away by an invisible force, leaving her body behind, empty. Children whispered of seeing their future selves. Dogs barked at nothing, then exploded into black vines. Reality was falling apart. Final scene, a message from the past. Dustin, Erica, and Nancy, now back above ground, carried a rusted reel-to-reel tape from the lab. They set it up near Elle, Hopper, and the others. The tape crackled. Then a voice. It was Brenner. "If you're hearing this, then I've failed. Project Kronos has begun its cascade phase. There is no stopping it now. The only chance you have is to enter the source. Go to the first gate. Burn the root. Or time will eat itself." The tape ended in static. A long silence. Then Elle whispered. "We end this. Together. One last time." October 31st, 1987, the anniversary. Location, the ruins of Hawkins. The date no one could forget. The anniversary of Will's disappearance. The beginning of all of it. The air was cold, electric, filled with whispers, crackles of static, time tears. Red lightning flickered across the sky, tearing open holes that bled memory and madness. The town was dying. Not slowly. Rapidly. Reality was buckling. People screamed as they were erased mid-step. Some blinked and suddenly aged. Others became someone else. The rifts were multiplying, opening in random bursts. Gates within gates. Layers of reality peeled back like rotten wallpaper. This was not the upside down anymore. This was something worse. This was the in-between. Location, Forest Edge, the final party assembles. The survivors gathered one last time at the edge of the old forest, the place where it began. 11. Mike. Will. Lucas. Max, Dustin. Erica. Nancy. Steve. Robin. Hopper. Joyce. Murray. Owens. Even Karen Wheeler and Claudia Henderson had come. All of them, broken. But here. Max, still battered and semi-lucid, leaned on Lucas. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Is this it?" "No," Lucas said. "This is us." Dustin clicked on his flashlight. "You all ready to walk into hell again?" Erica spun her slingshot. "Born ready." Nancy loaded her shotgun. "We close the first gate. Burn the root." 11 nodded. "And if Vecna's still alive?" Hopper answered coldly, "We finish it. For good." Location, the Spiral Rift. They arrived at the origin, the scarred patch of land in the woods where Will vanished in 1983. The earth cracked in a perfect spiral, like some cosmic fingerprint burned into the ground. Floating above it, the first gate, a swirling black-red void pulsing like a heartbeat. It was enormous. Wider than any before. It wasn't just a doorway, it was a wound. Owen scanned it. It's not stable. That's why time's collapsing. This gate was never closed properly. Elle stepped forward. It's feeding Vecna. Keeping him alive. Suddenly, vines burst from the spiral, dragging Owens into the air. He screamed, then was split in half mid-air by a violent snap. Blood rained down. They barely had time to react before the vines came for all of them. The battle begins. Steve hacked through tendrils with an axe. Robin used a flaming branch. Erica launched explosives from a DIY wrist rocket. Murray lit Molotovs with shaking hands. The kids fought like soldiers. But the gate kept growing. The rift opened wider. Then, screams from above. The Mind Flayer returned. Not just one, but thousands of pieces of it. Shattered, stitched together, flying like a storm of worms. It had no form now, just rage. Elle raised both hands. The sky tore. Lightning exploded around them. Vecna's voice echoed across the woods. You broke the chain, now let the world rot with me. Inside the gate, the journey to the root. Elle, Mike, Will, Max, and Lucas entered the rift. What lay beyond wasn't the upside down. It was memories turned inside out. They walked on the shattered floor of Joyce's living room, suspended in black space. They passed Hopper's cabin, floating and broken. Will saw himself, 1983, scared, hiding in the shed. They were walking through their past. And at the center, the root. A massive bleeding tree of flesh and bone, wrapped in tendrils of time, screaming faces of the dead stitched into its bark. Max gasped. That's me. Her own face blinked from the tree. Half alive. Half dead. Will stepped forward. It's feeding on everything. Past. Present. Future. Vecna emerged from the shadows, more spirit than man now. A scorched skeleton of thought and hatred. You think you're ending this, he hissed. But you're only beginning the cycle again. Elle shouted, you don't belong in this world. I am this world. The final confrontation. The battle in the real world escalated. The mind flayers shrieking, consuming trees, melting cars. Hopper was slammed into a tree. Nancy was thrown across a field. Steve lost 2 fingers slashing a vine. But they didn't stop fighting. Inside the gate, Elle floated above the root, her eyes bleeding, her nose shattered from pressure. She turned to the group. It has to be me. Mike screamed, no. You'll die. Maybe, Elle said. But not alone. Will stepped up. He's still part of me. I go with you. Vecna charged. Elle and Will joined hands, their minds fused, pain and power blending. Together, they unleashed. A psychic scream tore through the void. The tree cracked, exploded with light. Vecna's scream pierced every dimension. Outside, the mind flayer screamed, froze in midair, and collapsed into dust. The gate began to close. But Elle and Will didn't come out. 1 week later, the memorial. Hawkins no longer existed on any map. The government erased it. Survivors were relocated. Lies were told. Chemical spill. Environmental collapse. The usual. A private memorial was held in a quiet town nearby. Photos of Elle and Will sat on a table. Mike couldn't speak. Joyce was hollow. Hopper stared at the sky like he expected her to fall from it. Steve placed a baseball bat at the grave. Always swung for the fences, Elle. Max placed her journal beside Will's photo. He was the heart. Final scene, somewhere else. A radio buzzed in an empty room. It crackled. Then a voice. Mike? Dustin? Can you hear me? It's Elle. We made it through. But it's not over. Not yet. The dark is still out here. And it remembers.